Hi guys, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Wake Up CX. So first of all, it's another new video for you to watch on YouTube, LinkedIn, what have you. I'm going to do it as a little bit of a different structure to what I've seen most of the others. The goal is that I want short episodes, no more than 10 minutes, something that you can just watch on a Friday morning while you're having your brew before you go into work, what have you, or when you've just arrived at the office, something to settle your head. And it's to pose a question, share my view on it, and I want you to think about it, discuss it with your co-workers, and come back to me with your thoughts. I'm not sharing a miracle cure, or this is the de facto answer, this is the solution to all your problems. The idea is to discuss a topic that has been given on my mind, to share it with you, and see what you think. I want to bring as many different opinions together as we can, to have an actual constructive debate on the LinkedIn comment section. If you would like to reach out to me separately, discuss it via Messenger or arrange a chat, absolutely fine, I'm more than happy to do that. So without delaying any more, I'll introduce the first topic, which is the mother of all mistakes. Now this applies to any environment, but again using the framing of the customer experience, but that in itself often leads people to think of, a transactional relationship, your customer, but it applies to any field. If you are a business owner, your staff are also your customers because you're paying them, but at the same time you need them to buy into what you're selling. If you're a team leader and you're responsible for getting your staff to be engaged and delivering better, again, you need them to buy into your process and your way of doing things. You need to coach them, you need to guide them, you need to develop that experience, and the same thing applies to a trainer. When you're trying to pass on information and you want them to be engaged and learners and asking the right questions, engaged in all the different topics, you can't do that if they're not buying into what you're selling. So therefore everyone is a customer. And again, we have the main ones, which are people that are working in a call center speaking to customers. They have specific customers, and again it's about progressing that experience. So what is the mother of all mistakes? To me, it comes down to complacency, and it's something that you can't avoid. It will always creep in, and it's about how do you manage it to keep the levels of complacency minimal and to keep things driving forward in a positive way. Now my view is that nobody goes into work wanting to do a bad job. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, you know what, I really want today to do absolutely nothing, I'm not going to put any effort in, it's all going to go to crap, and let's just leave it at that. People are pushed to that point where they stop trying to engage, stop trying to deliver better. And in my experience, that can be when you don't feel heard or valued, or when you're not seeing any change for all the effort that you're putting in. You don't see a change to the outcome. People often just start to get a bit dejected and stop caring. And that's where leaders step up. You encourage these people to try things a bit differently. There's many different ways you can approach that, which I'll come to in a little bit. But the reason why I'm saying complacency is the main issue across everything falls for me into three categories. So the first category I'm going to start with is regulations. I spend a lot of my time looking at ICO regulations and their decisions. And people tend to fall into two categories when they've had a breach. One of them is where a company has intentionally breached regulations for profit, and they do this completely maliciously, and they don't engage with the ICO when it comes to discussing the regulation. Can't help these people. They're not wanting to be helped, so we're going to ignore them, and we're going to move over to the ones that have process in place, have training in place. They've done their best for their customers to set up the frameworks to always abide by the regulations, and then they've made a mistake. And the mistake could be that they've called somebody without checking the list against their TPS registry. It could be that they've sent out an email, or they've misinterpreted a regulation. And these things happen, mistakes can happen, but they're more likely to happen when people aren't engaged or actively focused on what they're working on at any given time. The second area is engagement across your business. If you're trying to bring in new initiatives, if you want people involved in training, you want to upskill people, develop them, you need them to be engaged in that process. And if they're not, no matter how much effort you're putting in, if they're just switched off and not paying attention, they're not responding to your questions, they're not engaging with you on the topics, you're not going to get the best out of those people. You're wasting their time, you're wasting your own time. And again, complacency does that. Like, people start to think there's no point in me trying to change, there's no point in me adapting and taking on this new learning. It's not going to make a difference to the outcome. And then the final one is the customer experience, when you're actually speaking directly to a customer on the phone or in a store and your staff are sat there. Again, complacency drives it in. People come in, they're not engaged, they're not enthused, and you can tell from the tone of the conversation they're disinterested, they're not listening to your customer, they're just on autopilot, they're making decisions based on the 20 conversations they've had previously ago, they're not taking the specific scenario into mind, and it's like autopiloting your entire customer experience. It's a horrendous idea. Now, there are many different ways you can combat this. It starts from the very beginning for me. When you bring people into a business, you need to engage them on the topics, you need to make sure have a structured hiring process in, that you are bringing the right people in that actually care about the business. It's all well and good, everyone needs to earn money and pay the bills, but you should be going into a business that you're passionate about and that you care about, and that's what you should be looking to hire. If people don't care about the business, or if you're bringing people into a call centre and they don't care about people or people's experiences, then it's not going to help anybody. They are going to be a lack of enthusiasm throughout the day. It's not going to be long before they start neglecting your customers' needs, and that's a problem. You can't force people to care about something they don't care about, so you kind of need to catch that early on in the process, so that you're bringing the right people into the business with the right attitudes. Once you've then got them in the business and they're the right people, you need to keep them engaged. Now, in a contact centre setting, for example, many of your tasks are quite repetitive. It could be that you're taking 50, 100 calls a day, similar topics, same sort of story over and over, and it can be very difficult because you are going through the motions of filling out this form, filling out that form, asking these security questions, asking these same 5 questions to get a picture, and it can be very monotonous, and when monotony kicks in, complacency is not far behind. So the best things, in my experience for this, is to try and vary up the activities across the day, get them engaged in different sides of the business. If you've got a call centre and you're bringing your staff in onto the floor and they're making calls, as part of their growth, you want them to learn more about the business. So get them sat with your business analysts and looking at all the data, get them engaging with the training groups as they're coming into the business, help them to develop other people to share their experiences. If you've got different channels, so if you're doing both calls and emails, try and vary it up, get them to do a bit of different things across the day. If you can have them on different services, then again, break up the thing so they're not always doing 50 calls on the exact same topic. Maybe they do 25 on one, then they can change over to a different campaign. It's all about keeping them varied and keeping them engaged. And one of the great things you can do with this is, even if you don't have all these other options and they have to take the same calls all through the day, that's where you can introduce things like gamification. You want to have them having targets and goals across the day, mini objectives for themselves, reward them for them, show them that their perspective and their opinion is valued. So when you are building training material, just engage them on the topics, ask them for their opinions. How did this work for you? What do you think would work well for somebody else? So that's my opinion. I think complacency is the biggest issue. So again, I want to keep this below 10 minutes. So my first question to you is, do you agree? If you don't agree, what do you think is the biggest issue? If you agree that complacency is the main problem, it's the mother of all mistakes, how do you address it in your business? Is there any techniques you can share? Any thoughts that you have, more than happy to discuss, and I hope you'll share them in the comments. And finally, if you have any ideas for the next episode, let me know, and then we'll see what we can come up with, and I'll try and drop the episodes on a Friday morning. I'm going to aim for around about 8:30 in the morning UK time. Okay, so thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.